Here, thank you.
Thank you. Right on to an announcement of a closed session later on in the agenda. Moving on to item number 3, public comment. Everybody will get 3 minutes to speak. And try to keep your comments civil, respectful, and direct your comments to me. First up is that John Forsythe? I'm sorry, I can't read the last name. Pine Road.
It's me.
Okay. Come up to the microphone, state your name and address, please. Name and address, please.
John Patasic, 2040 Pine Road.
Thank you.
Is that my time?
At the top, it sounds like Bravo.
Lights flashing red.
You want to just put that mic up there and get rid of that one. Batteries. Sorry about that.
Oh, that's okay. Okay, well, I moved here in 1998. Right after I moved here, I put a garden in, which 7 years in a row it got trashed every time. I called the police about it. Police didn't do a thing, and last they didn't even come to look at it. I bought some wrought iron planter things like that, and I put them on my deck, 3 of them, and I was working full-time and going to school full-time, and I had that day off. I went and I put flowers in them and hung them on my deck, on my railing on my deck. Came 4:30, I had to go to class from 5 to 10 at the tech. Came home and I thought, oh geez, I didn't water them. So I'm getting water out to go water them. They're all gone. They weren't even out there for 5 hours. The tires on my trailers and stuff kept going flat. I couldn't figure out what's going on. And I always put the caps back on, because if you get a little dirt in them, you know, then they'll go flat for you. Well, the caps were always off, so I knew somebody was screwing around. I had $2,000 worth of roses in the front of my house. I had them in there for like 18 years. All of a sudden they all died, which I thought was really kind of strange. So I was outside one day and here the neighbor lady, which I'm presuming is the culprits, she came walking around the block, and she came and she stood from me to him where the roses were all dead. She stood there like this from me to him where the dead roses were, and she stood there for a half an hour looking at them dead roses. So you tell me if that ain't suspicious. So I went and I bought $2,000 worth of roses again. I thought, well, nobody's gonna do that to me if that's what happened. So I ended up, I had a stockade fence where I had my dogs in, and I put the roses right alongside the stockade fence so that they could have a little shade and a little sun. And
You
then
have to wrap it up, Johnny, get close to 3 minutes.
And then I watered them every day. Do you know, by the time the weekend came, all them roses were dead. The grass was all dead around them and everything. Somebody sprayed something on them. I had a pop-up camper I paid $8 grand for. They went and stabbed a big hole right in the center of the roof. $8 grand.
You got done?
Just about. I got a storage shed in the back. Just recently this happened. They tore the padlock and the whole shebang right off the door, ruined the door. I don't know if they took anything out of there because I forgot what all they did in there because they don't go in there all the time. Last year, week before Easter.
All right, John, I have to cut you off, that's close to.
Okay, this is important. The week before Easter of last year, I had two Dobermans, two big Dobermans. They were 10 years old, the most sweetest dogs you could ever have. And I had them just so that they were there for protection with all this stuff going on. Do you know, the week before Easter, one of them died? And then on Easter Sunday, a week later, the other one died. So you tell me, what are the odds of that happening?
Right. All right, thank you. Chief, make sure you get his information.
Yeah, that ain't gonna help. I went to you about it when you told me to go and talk to the police officers.
All right, next up is Gary Gaitowski.
Shit.
Name, address, please, Gary.
My name is Gary Goitowski, 1977 Kowalski Road. My wife and I are deeply concerned about the events that happened and are happening in our community. The village has gone through an unprecedented number of administrators in the past few years. 2 in the last 6 months. This was not due to their lack of ability, but to the atmosphere in which they're working. The other municipalities must be wondering what is going on. The damage has been done to the village's status, and it's unimaginable. What person who is qualified to be an administrator would want to work for Kronenwetter? The village has a very hard-working staff, and we are fortunate to have them. But it's a sad comment that a person who has been employed for approximately 3 years has seniority here. Peter Camphor's letter stated that our fire chief, her intense focus on the ambulance service is so extreme that she is willing to compromise the safety of our community by potentially diminishing our fire protection. Fire Chief O'Brien has put a great deal of time and effort into the information she has provided to the board, and she is very passionate about developing the ambulance service, and I commend her for this. However, with the high interest rates, the rising costs due to inflation that affects everyone's income, why not step back and reanalyze this proposal? There's nothing wrong with residents asking for a complete and full analysis of costs and evaluations of purchasing and maintaining our own service versus keeping Riverside's. This is before spending close to $1 million of taxpayer money for our own service. We are a village made up of the majority of residents. There is a very limited number of manufacturing facilities, small businesses, and absolutely no shopping districts. The tax burden falls on the shoulders of approximately 8,000 residents. On another note, my wife and I have been poll workers for the past few years now. Our duty has been to do the absentee ballots, which we do take very seriously. Bobby has always been very helpful whenever she has found any error, or we have found any errors or discrepancies on the ballots. We have read the complaints against her, and in our opinion, see nothing that cannot be corrected and resolved. By simply adhering to state laws and statutes, this can be done. Please keep in mind we have a presidential election coming up, and we need people who are familiar with our system and our procedures.
Got done, Gary? Speak again.
One sentence.
Go ahead.
I'm not sure what the long-term effects are of these issues that we have going forward, but the board needs to find a way to resolve their differences and work together for the good of the community. Thank you.
Next up, Patty, this,
Tukowski.
Patowski?
Thank you, Mr. Dole.
Name and address, please.
My name is Patty Tukowski. I live at 2153 Peach Road in Kronenwetter since 1999. I'm very nervous. This is the first time I've ever done this. But the village of Kronenwetter is governed by a board consisting of a president and trustees. The trustee and president of the village of Kronenwetter are elected at large and represents us, the residents. The board takes formal action at these meetings, such as approving contracts, awarding bids, passing ordinance, and setting policies that regulate our village. This is right from the Kronenwetter webpage. You see, right now, I'm not happy. I'm not happy at the way you're working for me. I'm actually embarrassed. Yesterday I went to church and they said, oh, there's that lady that lives in the dysfunctional village. They say that we're all over the news, morning news, on TV. So I went home yesterday and I listened to board meetings. After hearing the resignation of the administrator, I was appalled that we would move ahead with an ambulance service without a feasibility study. I was further appalled that when people wanted to discuss it, it was shut down. I do not know the fire chief, but I respect that she put her time and energy into this. But that report should be torn apart and challenged. This is an ambulance service. This is not playground equipment. I think it's time for all of us, residents, trustees, and employees, to start working together for the better of this village. There is a clear order. The employees report to the administrator reports to the village board, and you guys report to us. When has it become wrong to have open discussions on policies that impact this village? When has it become wrong that we can't discuss things as adults? Everybody in this room brings knowledge and experience. We all come from different backgrounds. What is wrong is when we can't have those discussions. And when we do disagree, we vilify each other. We need people who need to challenge us and hold us accountable. But what we don't need is this village's reputation further diminished. The culture in the village needs to change. We need to respect each other and respect the position each person holds. It's okay to have disagreements and other ideas. It's okay to ask questions and hold each other accountable. What's not okay is disrespecting, gossiping, and tearing each other down.
Thank you. Next up, Bernie Kramer.
Good evening, Mr. President. My name is Bernie Kramer from 2150 East State Highway 153, Bat 1. I come here with an open mind and a lot of expectations. I feel that 7 people were elected in the village of Kronenwetter to make the decisions. And I look to you people to make good decisions. And I don't expect staff people or self-appointed administrators to be making the decisions and threatening you people in terms of making decisions. And quoting Peter Camphor, that the fire chief had potentially threatened resignation and half her staff would leave. Well, in the private sector, you know what they tell you to do. We'll help you pack your bags and you can continue out the door. And if you were in the service, you'd be reporting to the first sergeant, and of course you know what would happen there. Now, I would like to enter into the record from the Village of Kronenwetter Comprehensive Plan 2019, goals and objectives. And it starts with, the village will strive to develop an informed citizenry and provide valuable input to the village decisions-making process. I just would like to file page 145, please. And then I want to also follow up with Peter Camphor's letter of resignation. I want to put that as number 2 as my presentation in public input. I think it's very good. And now I want to this here, so, well, we always think we're in an emergency situation, my gosh, but we gotta get this ambulance ordered. I mean, we got such a good deal, it's like going to the used car lot or something like that, and boy, this guy's out there, it'll never happen again. You got your only chance. I mean, who the hell knows what's gonna happen in a year and a half from now? But in the meantime, let's just slow things down. If it don't get done in a year and a half, so it takes 2 years. I mean, in the meantime, Riverside, we get class 1 ambulance service. I went down there, Kronenwetter have never filed a formal complaint to Riverside, verbal or otherwise. And they're willing to work with us no matter what the situation is, and always have been. Oh, there may be some personality issues at times, and there always is. But I mean, why should we go to work and throw overboard just because we have a personality problem here at Kronenwetter? It seems like we have one heck of a time working with our neighboring communities. And going forward, I think time will tell that will change. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Dave Wolf. Name and address, please.
My name is David Wolf. I live at 2196 Conestoga Lane, and I'm here to talk about the groundwater situation in my area. My pump has been running for 6 weeks straight, non-stop. Most of the time, like about every 20 seconds is pumping. And my electricity has gone up quite a bit, but that's not the problem. The problem is if something would happen, if the pump would quit, or if the power would go out, my basement would be flooded. And we have a plan in place. Normally I don't have any water in my sump pump. And we have a plan in place where we're gonna drop the water in the pond at the end of Paniola. That didn't happen because I found out later, after I talked to Mr. Wagner, that the Public Works Director resigned and left us here. And I just wanna point out to you that there's a lot of people that had water in their basement. The water went all the way out to the Y, stacked up. It was in all those ditches. And so I kinda talked to him, I kinda explained to him, because he really didn't know. And I just wanna point out to you that the next Public Works Director, maybe you should be telling them that should be taking care of us. Okay, that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Next, Mike Schmidt.
Mike Schmidt, 2072 Gary Lee Drive. Follow up on the water issue. I built the house in 2005. Basically, Friendship Park was a cornfield back then. Never really had a problem with runoff. No issues. As we build more, which is a good thing, more and more runoff goes to my corner and the corner next to me. 5 years ago, we had the spring flood, and you guys were good enough to bring the pumper trucks out, and that saved a lot of flooded basements. But my neighbor, fortunately not here, they're constantly getting flooded, and it's getting closer. The other guy across the street with all this rain, something has to be done with that corner, either a storm sewer or storm drain going down the north side to the creek. With all that runoff going into that park, it has nowhere to go. It's dead end. You see kids out there playing in the water. 5 or 6 years ago, you guys dug out the ditch on my neighbors and put all the big rocks in. Now you got kids playing on rocks, slippery rocks and water. I mean, that park has got rancid water right now where the dogs play. It takes forever to drain. I get we have high water tables, but something's gotta be done with that corner. It's getting worse the more we develop it. When we did the zoning commission meeting 2 or 3 years ago, I think you guys brought up that is an issue there. I mean, we all know that. I was looking at it yesterday, and the developer, when he put the sewer system in, pumped everything down the north side of Wolski to the Bull Creek, or wherever that's called, that creek. But it's not a bad idea. It'd be cheaper than going where he did, like he said, with the high water. But something's gotta be done to drain that water. So that was all I had. And from a safety standpoint, I mean, kids are kids, they're gonna play in water, that's what they do, and it's just a matter of time before somebody gets hurt, so.
Great, thanks, Mike. Next up is Cindy Alcott.
I'm Cindy Alcott, my address is 580 River Oaks Trail. I'm here in support of Bobby tonight. I've been a poll worker since 2008 and became a chief in 2012. Bobby is the 4th clerk that I've worked for, and I consider her the absolute best that we've had. She takes our elections very seriously and runs them with the utmost integrity. She follows all the rules and regulations and even found one that we had not done in the past, which is the need to have a chief inspector present at all of the in-person absentee voting. And that will be starting this year. There will be a chief there at all times. We also, at this point, have the largest number of poll workers that Kronenwetter has ever had. And I credit that to her personality, her training sessions, her work ethic, and her focus on election integrity. With 2 elections looming, one being very contentious, there is no one else who should be running them but her. I'm totally confident that with her leadership, Kronenwetter outcomes will be completely above report and without question. We cannot lose her leadership. And if anybody has any complaints about how elections are run, we welcome you to please come and sit and watch what we do. That's all I have to say.
Great, thanks. Next is Mary Vensky.
Mary Vensky, 1925% Drive, and I'm here to support Bobby. I moved to Kronenwetter back in 2016, and shortly after that started working with the elections. When Bobby came on board in Kronenwetter, we weren't using Badger books and we needed to enter into the electronic era. She was very instrumental in getting us all trained and knowledgeable so that we felt comfortable using Badger books. She even went so far as to have the electricity checked and the Wi-Fi looked at to make sure that when we got 10 Badger books up, that we wouldn't blow the electricity or mess up with the Wi-Fi. Since then, and since Badger books has started, the elections run smoothly, and that's the best. She's always very professional. She has gone above and beyond to assist voters in enabling people to vote, whether it's curbside voting or in-person absentee voting before elections. Bobby has it covered. For the upcoming election in August, she put out an email, and in less than 1 hour, she had all of her slots filled. Our election poll workers love working with her. She is professional and dedicated to her job. She's the best, and Kronenwetter can't afford to lose her. Thank you.
All right, next up is Guy Fresnel.
Guy Fresnel, 2240 Ruby Drive. It's my opinion that the Village of Kronenwetter has lost the most knowledgeable, the most intelligent, the most experienced, and the most effective administrator that we have ever had. Peter Kempfer was a perceptive person who analyzed problems quickly and worked to bring about solutions to those problems. On July 19, 2024, Mr. Kempfer submitted his written resignation. He made it effective immediately. I'm presenting a copy of Mr. Kempfer's letter of resignation. I think it's a very important document to be transparent about. I ask that it be made a copy of the part of the minutes for this meeting. In that letter, Mr. Kempfer stated the following. Following the APC meeting, it was brought to my attention that Fire Chief O'Brien had threatened her immediate resignation during a prior meeting, a move that could potentially lead to the resignation of half of our village volunteer firefighters. This incident, which occurred on July 11th, following an RDA committee meeting, as Village of Kronenwetter Village President Chris Gold described, is an urgent situation that demands immediate attention. O'Brien's confrontation with village president Chris Vole and village trustee Chris Iden in the village parking lot, where she issued explicit demands, ultimatums concerning the ambulance service. How could the above misbehavior have occurred and not been included in the discussion of the July 17th Village of Kronenwetter special called board meeting? Do the citizens of Kronenwetter understand what kind of fire chief they have? What do you think about the emails July 9th she has circulated with the village board and staff? I have attached the complete email thread that Mr. Camford was referring to. I also ask that this email thread be made part of the meeting minutes of this meeting because it provides other additional critical information to the public. I respectfully request that a special joint meeting of the village board and the village police and fire commission be called promptly to appropriately address Administrator Camford's concerns. This is not a matter that should be ignored, it should not be delayed, it needs to be acted on. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have a written letter from Tim Shaw. This addresses 1225 Log Road. Sarah will read the letter.
Mr. President, thank you for allowing my input. I would like to start by saying how disappointed I am in members of the board that voted to resurrect the ambulance service at the last meeting after it was rescinded at that meeting. Your logic never ceases to amaze me. I urge the board and the committee to take a hard look at economics of the ambulance service. While it would certainly be nice to have the service, it comes at an exorbitant cost. The real impact and cost need to be thoroughly understood before a decision on implementing the service is made. A decision should not be made on the chief leaving and some of the firefighters with her. It should be made on sound principles. As to the administrator's resignation, I'm wondering if there will be an outpouring of dissent and public comment tonight from the staff and Trustee Vedvik over another administrator leaving so soon. Trustee Vedvik, who are you and your crazy wife going to blame this administrator's resignation on? I'm sure Trustee Charneski must have done something to make this last administrator run for the hills, didn't he? As far as the agenda item to reaffirm the clerk's position, how could any of you trustees possibly be willing to reappoint the current clerk before the special investigation is finished and the state election committee opines on the complaint that has been filed against her? Doing so at this time would be very irresponsible and a great travesty of justice. She's cost the village tens of thousands of dollars initiating the harassment complaint against Trustee Charneski. However, she's not produced a shred of hard factual evidence that I have seen to support that claim. In addition, she's been incredibly disrespectful and insubordinate. The last administrators apparently had the same impression of the clerk, and I heard made comments that he'd have terminated her employment if he had been her boss when she made those terrible public comments. It absolutely amazes me how Clerk Labarge could demand respect from Trustee Charneski, then turn around and make those scathing public comments to him, such as she did a few meetings ago, and be dumb enough to think that somehow that's okay. Does she really believe that two wrongs make a right? With the clerk's borrowed comments from Beth in Yellowstone and her childish, arrogant, unprofessional comment about her being a tornado and Trustee Charneski's being a trailer park, she should be evaluated this evening accordingly. Let karma rain down on her tonight during her evaluation for doing a terrible, unnecessary thing she's done.
Thank you. All right, that's it for comment. Moving on to item number 4, reports from staff and vendors. Item 4C, the Community Development Director report. Good, Pete.
As you can see, I have been dealing with a lot of water complaints, starting last week. And I kind of listed the general area where those are happening. I've also been working on some of the reports that have been done by the, public works directors as far as the compliance meetings and the report. And also, I've completed the MS4, storm sewer system, permit/report. Other than that, I guess I'll take any questions.
So have you had a chance to look at where the gate is on the Ghost Pond drain? Is it up or is it down?
Well, as of last week, we put it as low as we can per the agreement. So I think it's at like 1886, that's the elevation we can reach it. And I believe there were some neighbors by, just Wolf, that called me at the end of last week. They noticed a change already. it's possible we could have done it earlier, but I just didn't know that it was there, what to do with it.
Yep, okay, thanks. Maybe we should revisit that policy, maybe just leave it at the lowest setting all the time.
Yeah, that's a possibility. We did get a call from the person in charge of Golden Ponds, concerns about, it going too low and not being able to irrigate, or run their irrigation system.
Well, I think there needs to be some kind of a mechanism in that policy that says if we get a bunch of normal rain, we usually don't get a lot of rain in July, we got a lot of rain this year, so there needs to be some mechanism that says, okay, even though it's part of one of the drier months of the year, we still need to have the ability to make those
And we
adjustments.
do per the agreement between the village and Golden Pond. The first event, I don't think, the crew person was around, family's on vacation, so that was an issue. I mean, I just didn't have any experience, I didn't even know we had this facility.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those kinds of things where travel knowledge, everybody leaves and then nobody's understanding, right?
Yep.
Unless you ask questions, like the numbers, like, well, he knows, but nobody knows to tell you beforehand. Anything else, Pete?
Yeah, okay, you're talking about the TID 2 Robert Roth road projects. Is that 150-page report?
Yeah, that's part of it, and then also just the timing, and then the RDA wanted us to, kind of break out the projects that were, all would be covered by the TID, and then those that would not be, so we had an idea of, to prioritize what to do first.
Did they give you, some type of summary? I mean, 150 pages is a lot. Did they give you a summary of some type that's in common language that, the average person can understand?
Not yet, I guess they call it, they're at 50% completion with the research in the report itself. But a lot of those pages, like you mentioned, were just the borings that were done, describing each boring and what they found in each boring as far as the thickness of the asphalt and thickness of the base layer and that kind of thing.
So wouldn't a summary be helpful, even at this 50% level? I mean, why did they give you a 50% report if, the average person can't get much out of it?
I can ask them to provide a summary thus far.
Okay. Correspondence on floodplain ordinance, what's the timetable on getting that?
I sent out like a last ditch email to actually one of the consulting firms in the area, and I think based on that, they must have lit a fire, because I immediately the next day received responses from two of the individuals that I've been working with previously, and one, a new contact that I made. And they did send back a few of the comments that they had with the most recent draft. It's just a matter of me finding the time to get the ball rolling with that.
Okay, so what's the projected timeline to getting a ordinance approved?
Probably sometime around 6:30 in August, I would hope August or September. I don't see why that couldn't happen.
Okay.
It's gotta go to planning commission first and then village board for final approval.
Okay, and we still have people, as far as you know, waiting to start projects based on that?
Yes,
Okay, they didn't run away yet, as far as
I didn't check today,
getting
but,
tired of waiting,
I didn't check today, but no, I don't think they've run away.
Okay, well, I mean, some people might, get fed up. Okay, and this WISDOT Railroad preemption joint inspection, is that anything we need to know about? That's not that's not something that's, has to do with the safety issues, is it?
Not with the ones we discussed in the past, but what it is, it's a yearly inspection that's done in conjunction with the railroad in the village to make sure that the timing on the lights and crossings are all meet specs.
Okay. And as far as these dugouts, athletic field dugouts, do we have the money somewhere in the budget to finish that project?
I believe we do, that was money that was already allocated to, parks for improvements. One ball field has been done already. I think there was maybe a misunderstanding that the quote we got was for both ball fields and 4 dugouts. So between myself and Brad, we've been looking for other contractors to finish the dugouts on, I don't know which is 1 or 2, closest to Kronenwetter Drive. But that'll be covered in the money that was already allocated.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Just a quick one, are we having any issues with like lawn natural areas? I just see that review of that.
Yeah, we have, we get complaints regarding people not mowing their lawn, and we have an ordinance that says it can't go over 9 inches, but in addition to that, the ordinance allows you to either have a manicured lawn or a natural area. And some people are mowing their lawn, for the majority of it, but they're leaving an area as a natural area. So it's kind of a fine line of when it's overgrown grass versus a natural area. And so far, I haven't had any real issues. I mean, you can see a lawn that's been manicured and been mowed, and this is not, they haven't been, doing it on a regular basis. We address that, but the natural areas, it is what it is. There's nothing you can do.
Anything else? All right, thanks, Pete. Move on to the police chief.
Okay, been a busy month here. Last month was pretty busy. We've been really busy here in July, especially the last couple weeks here. We've had a pair of really labor-intensive sexual assaults with what I would call special circumstances victims. So that's taken a ton of time. There's been a bunch of search warrants, and those are still under investigation. So with Officer Geyer on night duty, we've utilized her to write up a lot of these warrants and do a lot of this investigative work at the office. So that's actually worked out to our advantage as far as that goes. We also had a stolen car recently, and we were able to track that using OnStar, and went over to Grand Rapids, Michigan, and then we got a hold of the local officers in that jurisdiction. They were able to recover that vehicle. So that investigation is still going, and then the last thing I would say is, obviously, not able to give specifics about that critical incident. DCI, or Department of Criminal Investigation, still considers that under investigation. But what I would tell you is the department, what you're gonna find out when that comes out is the department functioned extremely well. It operated exactly as how we should as a department. It was a critical incident. I was not there because of my father's situation, so the department handled this without me. I didn't even know about it until hours after. That's how well everybody just took the role and just stepped up and handled that. Lieutenant was called in off duty. He responded. We had a sergeant who was already on duty, another sergeant who came in, officer on standby in case we needed more assistance, and then our day shift car caught a couple hours nap, and then he came back and worked all night. So we received, very positive feedback from the Department of Criminal Investigation as far as the department. You're gonna find that the policy was followed, and they did an outstanding job. Let's say, if you wanna find out the mettle of an organization, you put it into a critical incident, especially without the top of that organization even being present or knowledgeable, but everybody else is able to step up and fill those roles, which is that's what we train for. We want everybody to be able to do those roles, and they just did a hell of a job. So I'm very, very proud of the work that they did, and I'll take any questions.
We had public input from the dissatisfied person. Were you aware of all that stuff before?
I was aware of some of the complaints to his residents. I don't know all the specifics. That's why I gave him my card. I'd love to talk to him a little bit further on these. We're having Lieutenant, one of us will contact him.
Yeah, because it sounds pretty serious, you know.
Right, yep. Yep, I know that the officers were there, and if there was probable cause to make an arrest, I'm very confident that they would have done so.
Anything else for Chief? Okay, we'll move on then to the treasurer report. Thanks, Chief.
So, I just wanted to kind of give you an idea of what I've been working on. The financials are not completed at this time, just because I was on vacation for about 2 weeks, so I'm still working on the bank recs and finishing up the financials. So this kind of let you know the different things that I was working on. Also, just wanna touch base on the one item, on the August 8th RDA meeting. We will have Ellers and RPS at that meeting. RPS is hoping to have 90% of the study done at that time, and then Ellers will be there so that they can start talking about the timelines and how their timelines will mesh to have the amendment done, the financing that needs to be done, along with all the projects and being completed, so the entire TID projects can be done. So, asking anybody from the board to attend that meeting as well, so that if you have questions or concerns, we will have the, I guess, specialists there to answer your questions.
Will those documents be available before the meeting? Or are we first gonna hear about it at the meeting?
No, if anything that I get, I put into the packet from them. It's just how quick he
Okay,
finishes the
so-
packet.
Okay, so they're not gonna have new information right on the spot.
No, I talked to RPS today, they're hoping to have everything completed. And he knows that he's gotta get me the stuff a week before, so.
And it's almost August, when are we gonna get that, audit?
I reached out to them as soon as I returned from vacation, because they were supposed to get it to us when I was on vacation. And they said that some of the other things that they were working on took longer than expected, so now I have a July 31st date, so I will be checking in with them next week to see how things are going.
So that's when it comes out, and then we'll have a meeting, a presentation after that.
Yes, as soon as I can get it back and then we'll go over it.
Anything else for Lisa? Alright, moving on then to the check register. Any questions or comments about the check register?
Yeah, see on page 26, there's a Dempsey, check. I don't see anything for Von Breesen, did
I
they?
did not get anything yet from Bruce.
I mean, do they normally send it in the first week, or?
It all varies. They don't have a regular time that they send us the bill.
Okay. That's all I got.
Anybody else? Okay, moving on to number 5, new business, 5G. Purchase the asphalt planer attachment for a Bobcat.
Okay. Well, go ahead. don't know if
I was
we'll
just
get
saying,
the
Brad was gonna pitch it, I don't think he's here, he was.
No,
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
Brad said that he wouldn't be able to make it today, so he said that he had presented to APC. So if they had big questions, they could ask people from APC, but I can kinda give you the gist. There's a planer attachment that works with our Bobcat, so all the electronics would work. In talking with Brad, because of the mild winter that we had, we would have extra money in the salt and brine line. So we're asking for a budget amendment with this to move the money from the salt and brine to purchase this equipment piece.
Okay, so your purchase here is, for what, 17,000, is that?
Yes.
Okay, and why isn't that coming out of the, equipment purchase fund?
That is where it would come out of. We've already bought our equipment, so we're just asking to move the salt and brine of 17,000 up to the equipment purchase for the extra. Because those items, the amount that's on this for equipment purchase is already spoken for. That is the amount that was for the PD cars, the fire department truck, and.
This will put you over budget unless you move the money over.
Correct. So since we're coming for it now, asking for the budget amendment now.
So when it says remaining $25,914,
That is remaining for the projects that were already assigned to that line. So if PD hasn't finished anything, if anybody's waiting to finish outfitting something, again, that money was set there for that reason. This was not something that was asked for at budget time. So with talking with Brad, we would have, we're asking to move the money out of the salt and brine since that's extra, put it into that purchase, to the equipment purchases, to purchase that.
And Brad is confident he doesn't anticipate using that extra money that they would move out of there, because we've got such a surplus of salt now from
Right.
that, you know, from
yeah,
last year.
I understand that. I normally, don't like to go over budget, you know, on things like this. But I understand they need the equipment and it's money well spent. But let's not forget, this year, wherever we're at, like a $500,000 deficit, we want to conserve. If we got a bunch of money left over in salt, we would like to save as much as possible. But I'm not saying I'm against this because you got a good thing to purchase here, but typically I'd like to stay within budget whenever possible, you know.
Correct, and like I said, he just saw this piece of equipment, otherwise that'd be, with the piece of equipment, I think he would've came and would've voted for a budget amendment, not a bond designated, so we're just asking.
And the other thing Brad explained too is he said it works really well for the edges of the road. So the way they do it now, they use a hand stamper and they try to wedge it up, but it doesn't hold. So he says that if you look at some of the photos, you can see where they've done some of the sides of the road. So they'll plane off down to the base and they'll be able to get a good, he said they get a much better fit and a bite on those corners than
Right.
they do when they try to hand paint.
Yeah, no, I don't have any doubt that it's a good piece of equipment, so I'll even make the motion, to recommend purchase of the asphalt cleaner
I'll second that.
and approve the budget amendment.
They're gonna motion by Ken, a second by Aaron
You
to
gotta wait till I'm done.
approve the purchase of the asphalt and approve budget number 7. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call roll please.
Driscoll.
Yes.
Presiding.
Yes.
Ken Troyanowski.
Yes.
Kelly Coyle.
Yes.
Aaron Mishka.
Yes.
Cindy Lee Hoffman.
Yes.
Alright, motion carried, 6-0. Moving on to item H, fire department EMS job descriptions.
The Police and Fire Commission had, requested that I bring, APC, which happened last week Thursday, well, and then send to the village board to approve the job descriptions for the EMS personnel. We already currently hire EMS, and the job descriptions would help with that hiring process.
Now, it's my understanding that this whole process didn't include the administrator, and since he's got all this experience in this field, is that true, that it bypassed him?
It went to the APC, he was included in on those emails.
In the creation of it?
He was sent the information, correct?
Yeah, so fire department created the job descriptions based on the criteria that was available to them as well as what's required by state statute and or fire department statutes. And everything was sent to the ABC as a packet. Now, I do know the administrator asked for a copy of the packet, then was provided the packet, but it did not include these job descriptions.
He was on the email with the job description.
Because he was running around here that night of that meeting, he didn't have them, so he felt like he had sidestepped a little bit, I think. But the APC reviewed them and, had discussions with the chief and everyone and approved them, recommended the village board approve.
Job descriptions are in line with the firefighter job description that was also brought forward to you a year ago.
So are these something we should have had on hand anyway for the people we have now, or is this
Yeah.
especially for?
No, we should have had these all along. Maybe not all of them, but the ones that we hired for, we certainly should have had.
You mean people that we have hired now?
Yes.
Yes.
So they were hired without a job description.
Correct, so we're the majority of the firefighters, because until a year ago, we did not have firefighter job description.
I'm glad we put these together now, and I think we should approve these for moving forward.
Well, I guess I would.
Yeah. I move to approve these job descriptions, so they can be passed.
Second. All right, Aaron, motion, can I have any second to approve the job descriptions as presented? Any further discussion?
Yeah, just one comment. I guess I'd approve these, but I wouldn't want my approval of them to be construed as support, for the ambulance service.
Anything else? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. All right, moving on, item number I, zoning change in certified survey map, Larry and Sandra Burns, 2180 Blue Jay Lane.
This was brought before the planning commission. It's a simple rezone from agricultural residential to RR5 residential. The proposed rezone is consistent with the comprehensive plan, it's consistent with the current use of the properties in the area. They're going to take their current 27-acre parcel and split it in two, approximately. They have two parcels that are, I want to say, greater than 10 acres. And they're going to build a house on the lot 1 and sell the residence and everything on it on lot 2.
I'll move we approve the rezone and CSM as described.
Second. Yeah, motion by Ken, second by Chris, to approve the TSM and zone change as presented for Larry and Sandra Burns at 2180 Blue Jay Lane. Any further discussion? Hearing none, call roll, please.
Chris Wolf.
Yes.
Chris Iden.
Yes.
Ken Charnowski.
Yes.
Kelly Coyle.
Yes.
Aaron Mishka.
Yes.
Cindy Lee Buchowski Hoffman.
Yes.
All right, motion carried, 6-0. Moving on to 5J, conditional use permit, Dean Paraska, 999 Happy Hollow Road, Kronenwetter.
This is kind of an odd conditional use permit. I don't think the village has had one as of yet, but basically they filed for conditional use, which is required by the ordinance for keeping of farm animals on residential lots. So this property was rezoned a month ago from Park and Rec to RR2, and the ordinance allows it as a permitted use if it was in RR5, but it's a conditional use in RR2. So they filed the conditional use permit, it meets all the requirements. It also has to abide by chapter 200-15, which discusses keeping of farm animals. And right now they're only requesting, I think, 2 horses and some chickens and ducks.
And we talked about switching that over to 3 permits because you got 3 lots, so.
So this morning I received 3 separate conditional use permits with the specific lot number and PIN number for lots that, that they want to have this type of use. And then also, the planning commission requested that they had required a renewal every 5 years.
Yeah. I'll move we approve conditional use permit.
I'll second it.
Okay, got a motion by Ken, second by Cindy, to approve the conditional use permit as presented for Dean Paraska, 999 Happy Hollow Road. Any further discussion? Hearing none, call roll, please.
Chris Wolf.
Yes.
Chris Iden.
Yes.
Ken Charnowski.
Yes.
Kelly Coyle.
No.
Aaron Mishka.
Yes.
Cindy Lee Buchowski Hoffman.
Yes.
Motion carried, 5-1. All right, moving on to item number K, administrator vacancy. So given the events as of Friday, we had the opportunity to put this on quick, to talk about what some of the next steps are gonna be, and also to talk about who is gonna be like a point person initially. So we can start with.
Well, I got a few questions. After what happened here, I don't know, somebody gave public input almost word for word. How are we going to get any quality applicants here when things like this happen? And I guess to clarify some of the chatter that says she never made this threat, I'll ask you just to clarify, did Teresa actually say if this ambulance service isn't approved, she would resign and take half the fire department with her.
Well, you know, I really wasn't gonna comment about it, cause I wanted to talk to Lee about it first. So I think at this time, I'm just not gonna say anything about it till I can talk with Lee more about it. I know that I was there and Chris was there, and we all heard the same thing. So I think before it goes any further, we need to figure out what some of the next steps are. I mean,
So you can't even admit,
well, I'm not gonna say right now.
but didn't you tell Camphor, I mean, it's right in this letter, that you changed your mind on the ambulance because of that?
I didn't say that in there. I didn't say that.
Oh, well, he asked you why, and you said because she made the threat, so I thought it was, you know, done deal.
No, that never happened.
Okay.
So, the first part of your comment, though, Ken, that the last time we talked about administrator hiring, Kim Manley had suggested we go hire a firm to do it. So the group was, the course of action at that time was to continue with the applicants that we had, which Hanford was one of those candidates. And if none of those panned out, then we would go with a service. Now, ABC had done some research and had some firms lined up, but because we had gotten an accepted offer from Camper originally, so we didn't move any further with any of those services.
Well, at the time, we also talked about, the drawbacks of these companies where, what were the guarantees on them, and, of course, the cost, but then you've got guarantees, of the quality of the person, and if they find somebody who's qualified and they recommend them, then we're stuck with them whether we want them or not, right? Because they said they would fulfill their part of the agreement by providing somebody, but not necessarily somebody that we really want.
What we would need to do is we would need to start that process over again, I think, because it's been so long. Since, it's been since August or September, since we had that information to begin with. So we're gonna need to go back out and, I think, re-poll those companies and see what their proposals are.
I guess my first choice is to just repost it, see what happens, for however long, a month. And if anybody applies that is qualified, get them in for an interview as soon as possible, rather than waiting 30 days, to see who you want to call in.
Right. Well, I thought about that too, and we did that the last time when, when the public works director resigned, we just initially re-ran the post because it was only 3 months or whatever old, so. We certainly can do that too, but I think to get a decent qualified candidate, we're probably gonna have to look at some kind of a headhunter firm or something.
Well, maybe at some point, but you know how it is, you put out an offer, or an ad, looking for somebody, and you don't get much, or you get a whole bunch of people that aren't qualified, and then a few months later, you put the same ad out, and boom, you got some good ones there. So, we never know, so I guess that's always my first choice, would be to put that out, and just see what shows up.
Yeah, I guess I'd be in favor of simply posting it. I know that the agreements are a little on the cost prohibitive side for using those agencies, and there are no guarantees.
Right.
So,
well, there isn't a guarantee with anybody.
No, so I guess to start off with, I would say repost the position, and
So we can repost as is, or as it was?
I would say so. I think we had made the, I think, Kim and Manley had made the necessary modifications, updates and whatnot last year when we ran with it, and just go with that again.
I think it can't hurt Maybe someone's gonna see Kronenwetter as a challenge that they really wanna come into, I mean, for all the
That's-
drama.
that's-
So there might be somebody out there that says they'll take it on.
So anyone make a motion, just repost?
I move to repost the job and see if we get a bite.
Second.
The motion by Aaron, second by Ken to repost the, administrator vacancy posting that we had used back in September, October, I believe it was. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. All right, so now in the meantime, what do we do for like a contact person or somebody like that? Because before, when we were between gaps, the board had allowed me to do some answering of comments, discussions with staff, that kind of thing, but, you know, no decisions about spending or anything like that, but just like day-to-day questions, go-to kind of stuff.
Yeah, well, have them call me, I'll take care of it.
I think for the most part, the department heads continue to report directly to the board. As far as an overall point person for certain matters, I would say that would still belong to you as the village president.
Just by default, I guess.
Yeah, I mean,
Pete, hey Pete, you look like executive
I
material.
don't know if it's by default, I mean, I don't wanna, I've been accused of overstep before, and I don't wanna overstep, so I just want it very clear and very specific on what's gonna happen, so. Anyone wanna make a motion for that?
Yeah, I'll make a motion that, going forward until we, fill the, village administrator position, that, the department heads report directly to the board, and that for any special situations, that come up, financially or otherwise, the point person will be, Chris Lowell, the, village board president.
And I'd like to amend that to anything that comes up, if it's of any import at all, you would then relate to the board.
Right.
That's my motion for the
I'll second the motion.
And the
hang on.
Amendment.
All right, so Aaron seconds the motion, and Ken,
We clarify it.
Ken makes a,
Is the amendment to reporting requirements, just to be clear, you know, in between every 2 weeks, or if we have a canceled meeting, can the president actually okay something? That's the first part of the motion. Or not? Let's be clear about it. Is the amendment just a reporting requirement? It's like we have administrative reports, and the president, ought to report on anything that's
Just
happened?
to send an email or something, making us aware of what's going on.
We still want open lines of communication, so communication must be there.
I guess what I was saying was that the department heads will continue to operate as they normally do per ordinance, and what they are allowed to do within that ordinance. Anything above and beyond that would require, additional support or additional decision-making would be done, I guess, with communication of the entire board, but ultimately with oversight of the village president.
Within good judgment.
Yes.
that's what you're looking for?
Yeah, let's use an example,
Okay.
okay? This is something that had some heartburn 6 months ago. Let's say the president gets faced with a issue that he can't call a special board meeting in time, and he needs to save the taxpayers money, to get a bill sent out on time. Okay, I just wanna be clear,
You can call a meeting within 2 days.
if he has time, but if he doesn't have time, you know, this is what, exactly what we're talking about, can you get something done so that saves the village basically, and report as soon as possible, call a meeting if we can. But not all the time can you do that, and we don't know what the unknown is, so this is exactly what we're trying to establish here, so we don't have heartburn later if the president feels obligated to take care of something and everyone wants to disagree later.
It only takes a few seconds to send an email.
Is that something that the administrator would have taken care of?
Within limits, right? So do we wanna clarify and just say, cause there is a policy on what the administrative limits are, right?
we're gonna let the president operate within those limits? Is that our understanding?
Yes, because anything else would have to come to the board anyway.
Right.
Okay.
If it's
Yeah.
budgeted.
Yeah, so I guess, I think we're gonna.
We're gonna allow, we're gonna allow the president to step in and administrate now and again. It is
Yeah.
pursuant to what we have the administrators do. He's still gonna keep everyone informed, call meetings as much as we can, okay? I just wanna make this sound more clear now, that we discuss it a little more.
Okay, so, going to rescind my original motion
All right.
in its entirety, which I assume that covers the amendment.
Right.
All right,
The second agrees to rescind?
I agree.
Okay.
all right. So then, my motion is to continue to allow the department heads to operate as they normally would within ordinance, budgets, and village rules for items that would fall under the area of approval for an administrator. The village president will fill that role per ordinance and policy of the village. And continue to inform.
Emergency situation.
And in emergency situations, and make sure that the full board is informed in a timely basis.
I'll second that.
All right, is that gonna be your concern, Ken?
I guess.
All right. Got a motion, everybody second?
We'll know what's in it after we pass it.
To allow the staff to continue, the department heads to continue to work as they are within ordinances and statutes, and to allow the village president to step in and administrate as needed. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carried. All right, moving on to item number 6A, an ambulance quote. So I know, Teresa, we asked for the out clause.
That is included in the purchase agreement on page 2. So there's 0% of the cost as long as the cancel is before July 1st of 2025, 10% of the purchase price after October 1st of 2025, and 25% of the purchase price if that cancel if the ambulance has already arrived at the dealer. He said he would, and it stated in here that he would do everything he could to resell it if we were past that July 1st date. So that it would be at no cost to us. So we would have until July 1st of 2025 to cancel at no cost to the village.
Okay, thanks for having that added. Anybody have any questions or comments?
Yeah, I agree with the public input that we're pushing this too fast. Somewhat getting the cart before the horse here. And it's just so typical of how this thing has been moving along. Almost, not quite since it started, but almost since it started. And I agree that if we don't purchase this, there may be other deals. And the other question that came up is, why weren't there 3 bids on something this big? You know, we gotta get 3 bids on what, anything over 35,000 or something, and here we got one, and we're jumping on it. I'm not, but some people want to.
So can you address that?
I can go up further, but to address that, there was another situation, we had to bring up a ladder truck, there was another situation where we did have a purchase 4 times this amount, but we did not have other bids, so following in the history of other purchases. But I can.
Well, the way I understood
I'll work
that,
with the committee to do that.
the way I understood that, it was a much more urgent situation because we had a truck that was shot.
Yeah, it's runs down, I think.
And we had a 2-year wait for another one. So that was somewhat more urgent. And as far as I'm concerned, there's no urgency at all to this. This is strictly optional. So I don't compare it to myself.
So Teresa, when you give a little background on how you arrived at this particular company for this particular ambulance?
We have worked with Council Fire for a number of purchases. They built our brush truck, they built our engine one, they built our ladder truck. We've also worked with them on fixes and other items on current equipment that we already have. They are fairly local, out of Antigo. They come here when there's items that need to be repaired or fixed, rather than us have to go to Madison or wherever else for those repairs.
We're approving a committee before we have a feasibility study to know if the project's even viable.
So that was the board's direction. I'm just submitting names as directed by the board.
I'm just saying, I can't support it, you know.
I think a committee is the next step, and I think these areas.
And basically, as far as applications, you're seeing everything I got. All I got was names.
Well, right, because we don't know, well, we know some of them, the committee members that, but these other people, you know.
Yeah, I talked to the others here, I talked to the two gals, and they're excited about being on the committee.
So you had no application at all?
Just emails. Name, address, and desire to be on the committee. Nobody took the time to fill out that application.
Well, okay, that's an indication to me of a lack of dedication, you know, and
But the
really
five-
pursuing this seriously.
But the five that were recommended from the motion wouldn't require an application anyhow, because they just volunteers from those particular committees.
I guess one thing I just wanna make sure is that whoever does this study actually does the diligence. Because they're, you know, actually coming out of the meeting last week, you know, I've had people come up to me and, you know, you mentioned like, Nakusa ambulance service that got shut down and others across the state, you know, I just wonder why, you know, people that are gonna go out and interview and find out why, what other ones failed, or are there any ones that are flourishing and why?
Well, I had got sent an article today that Taylor County is reducing all their ambulance EMT levels to basic, I think it was, cause they can't get staff.
Well,
See, that's
part of the
what I-
problem that needs to be addressed.
And that's why, like I say, I really think this, like, I really was in favor of using this, like, you know, these people are gonna go out and reach, like, it's what they get paid for. And you know, with so many committees, we have had committees that just did stuff and never, we had some other committees that never even came up with anything. And, you know, I just want to make sure it's done, that we know something.
Yeah, that'll probably come back, I think, not that we're getting off on the topic.
Right, it's all part of the subject, well, which I wanted to make it.
So what do you guys wanna do with the five orders?
Well, ultimately, that's your call, you make.
I mean, I've submitted them, do you approve or deny them?
Well, make a motion to approve the names submitted thus far, pending the submission of someone from Police and Fire Commission.
I'll second.
Make a motion by Kelly, second by Aaron to approve the appointments as presented. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
Motion carried.
I said no, did you hear me? Sorry.
No, I didn't.
No, sorry.
Okay. Well, I guess we'll just do division of house, so roll call.
Chris Bull,
Yes.
Chris Iden.
No.
Ken Charneski.
No.
Kelly Coyle,
Yes.
Aaron Mishka,
Yes.
Cindy Lee, Buchowski, Hoffman.
No.
All right, so it's time. All right, moving on. Item number N, so those board minutes from June 12th. Does not pass. Questions, comments? Does not pass. No.
I didn't see him in the back.
Page 142.
Find him?
Oh, yeah, okay, well, we're looking at the motions, but like Aaron said, we rescinded it all anyway, and, it doesn't matter.
So is there a motion to approve as presented, or are there any corrections?
I make a motion to approve as presented.
I'll second. All right, Kelly made a motion, I made a second to approve the minutes as presented. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
I'm gonna abstain because I didn't read it, so.
Motion carried, 5-1 abstention. Moving on to item number 7, consent agenda, we don't have anything. Item number 8, previous meeting minutes from the APC. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, we'll move on, thanks. APC. Item number 9, closed session. Consideration motion convening a closed session pursuant to West Stat 19-501C for consideration of employment, promotion, compensation, performance evaluation, that of any public employee over which the government has jurisdiction, extra responsibility, director of public works, and utility review, village clerk, as well as the village annual evaluation.
Now, couple.
Hang on. Page 2.
Okay.
And also consideration motion to in closed session pursuant to West Stat 921G, conferring with legal counsel for a government body which will give moral or written advice, considering strategy to be adopted by the body in respect to litigation which is ordered to become law to it. Claims made by John Bukowski against the village.
A couple weeks ago, there was a handout here from the League of Municipalities saying that if the clerk doesn't attend, we need to appoint someone to keep the minutes within the closed session. And basically the minutes, all it consists of is the vote to go into open session, because nothing else is voted on.
General, yeah.
So should we appoint somebody to keep those minutes?
Okay, comment?
Well, the board can invite in whoever it wants to a closed session. Only the board members themselves are entitled to attend the closed session unless you do invite someone else in. Because the minutes are pretty brief, I don't know that you necessarily need someone, but that's up to you guys.
Well, I just wanted to make sure that base was covered, so we come out of it with some decision, somebody say, wow, you didn't have somebody keeping the minutes, you know, so. So that's fine, I mean,
Okay. Any motions?
I'll make a motion to go into closed session.
Second. All right, Chris made a motion, I made a second to convene in closed session, any further discussion? Hearing none, call roll please.
Chris Bowl.
Yes.
Chris Iden.
Yes.
Ken Chernowski.
Yes.
Kelly Coyle.
Yes.
Aaron Mishka.
Yes.
Cindy Petrowski. Yes.
All right, motion carried.
I make a motion.
Oh, yeah. Oh, you guys have to come back.
No,
Okay, go
I
ahead.
make a motion, we move back into open session.
I'll second.
Okay, Kelly made a motion, Steve made a second to reconvene open session, any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. All right, so item number 11, actions after closed session. Public Works.
I kind of was making a running list here, so
Okay.
I guess I make a motion to, respond with a counter offer to the, applicant for DPW as discussed.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll second. Kelly made a motion, I made a second to Recommend the vice president continue negotiations with the, candidate Greg Allman for the position of public works director. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. All right, next on your list.
Okay, this one's actually 3 parts. Make a motion to reappoint Lisa Kirstner.
Well, we gotta, there's an actual item for that. Item M.
Oh, well then we hold off on that one.
So we'll come back to item M, we'll get that with the post.
Do we want to address, okay, so then we address just the village clerk stuff.
Yep.
Oh. This is not actually gonna be a motion. This is a direct present vote to meet with the village clerk to address, performance as discussed is what I was going to, there's no motion involved. No?
Oh, we were waiting.
What are we waiting on? What?
I didn't know that was.
I thought it was gonna be no action.
Item. That's not even on the agenda.
Yeah, no action.
Yeah, no action because of increase and stuff.
Okay, because that was one of the items that we went into closed session for, so, okay.
No action.
All right.
Well, yeah, just it's evaluation for the clerk.
For the clerk, but we take no action. Okay.
Yeah.
So for resolution number 2024 dash.
We're not to that one yet.
Okay, so
Okay, sorry, yeah, so I backed on that one. But on the claim one, we can do that one.
Sure.
Okay.
Yep.
Then I make a motion to disallow the claim by John Petrowski. Are we good there?
I'll second.
Okay, we got a motion, Kelly, second by Aaron to disallow the claim by John Petrowski. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
Motion carried, 5-1.
Okay. And lastly, make a motion to approve pay raise for Chief Terry McHugh as discussed for 2024.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion by Kelly, a second by Aaron to approve a pay increase for the police chief as discussed. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. Okay, now back to item M, which is resolution 2024-9, appointment of village treasurer and the village clerk.
Okay. The way I wrote this down. Make a motion to reappoint Lisa Kirstner as village treasurer per resolution 2024-9.
Second.
Yeah, just Lisa Kirstner.
Okay. And you second?
Yes.
Okay, counting motion, Chris made second to approve, resolution 2024-9, appointing Lisa Kirstner as the village treasurer. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Oh, hang on, resolution call roll please.
Chris Wolf.
Yes.
Chris Iden.
Yes.
Ken Chernowski.
Yes.
Kelly Coyle.
Yes.
Aaron Mishka. Lisa Manley. Chowski Hoffman.
Yes.
Okay, motion carried, 6-0. All right. Back to, okay, now we're up to item number 12. Consideration items for future agendas.
I think Guy Friedell's suggestion was pretty good about,
Joint committee, joint meeting,
what's that?
the joint meeting one you're talking about?
Either a meeting or start the process somehow. I'm not sure how a complaint goes to PFC, but maybe a good discussion,
Okay.
at the board level would be good.
All right, anything else?
Well, you said you had brought that thing about the stormwater back. What are we doing with that? That's been back for some time.
Stormwater or flood?
Or the floodplain thing, whatever you need to work on.
He worked on a floodplain, right?
Yeah.
Is that what you're talking
I
about?
did, I mean,
Now that, I thought that floodplain was almost finished up.
Well, that's what people's talking about. He's somebody called him today, I guess, or Friday, about something about it.
I was just trying to say, if you've never had a chance to hear about it, if you wanted to hear about it, you could. And, you know, we've not done that. Or at least here at the plan commission is the only place I did, is what I'm trying to say.
Okay. Just wanna make sure that nothing else was falling off the table in the meantime.
The other thing though, the legal question was the electoral process review.
So, I mean, I would say this, yeah, I mentioned that to you, our village ordinances on the whole are quite decrepit. And we could have better ones, and some of the ones that I routinely make better are the ones related to elections. You know, we have an ordinance that says the polls are open 7 to 8, well, that's in the statute, you don't need that one, you know. So you could get a draft on that, it's not a lot. Or you just wait until WEC tells you what to do, but that could be a year. I mean, so if you wanna just move forward with some brief ordinances, that's not a big job. Well, maybe you want that on the next meeting.
Or would that be better suited to start at ABC level?
They probably start at APC and
Yeah.
start the review of the ordinance, yeah.
I'll just give them a draft. I mean, I've done these many times, so I can just give them a draft and go through that way.
Alright, so
And then
put that on the APC's agenda.
the other one was that records custodian ordinance. We were gonna finally get back.
Oh, yeah.
That's one of the ones that fell off. Okay,
Is that here, or is that also APC?
well, it's just APC, I guess. It's just,
Yeah.
that way, if I'm showing up, I might as well just show up and do them all, and then I'll show up here and do,
Explain
you
it
know,
all.
we'll do a bunch, and you won't see me again for months.
Great. Okay. Anything else for, next agenda? Alright, hearing none, we're at item 13.
Make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second. Kelly made a motion, I made second to adjourn. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. We're adjourned. Thanks, everyone.